everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. The movie I want to talk about today comes from 1949. This is Stray Dog, directed by Akira Kurosawa, starring Toshira Mifune, Takashi Shimura, and Keiko Awaji. This is Keiko Awaji right here. And this is, before I start talking about Stray Dog, however, I want to talk just briefly about a 4.5-hour documentary which just turned up on the Criterion channel. It's by Masaki Kobayashi, and it is Tokyo Trial. And Tokyo Trial is a recounting, or a documentary recounting the international tribunal that prosecuted General Tojo and many of his associates. I think there's 12 other defendants on trial here. And it combines photography that the U.S. Army produced, and of the trial itself. And then Kobayashi gives us a context of what actually happened in the 1930s that brought about some of the atrocities that the Japanese Army committed. And then also we see what life is like post-war. Well, the period in which this film is set in the film comes out in 1949, but certainly we're getting a very clear sense of what Tokyo was like in the immediate post-war era. So 49 is 4 years after the atomic bomb and the Japanese surrender. It's a terrific documentary for history buffs. It's really a don't miss title to watch on the Criterion channel right now. So it sets up the mood for Stray Dog. And if you worry that this is about a movie about a dog, and does the dog die? There are no dogs here except underneath the title. It's where they put the credits over a close-up of a very kind of fierce, tired-looking dog who's panting away. This is a story about heat. The dog is hot. And so are the characters in this film. There's lots of fans and people mopping their brow as we're in the middle of summer and it's hot. So the stray dog of the title, and after that we don't see another dog. And so this is and the title is sort of a metaphor amongst many, many rich metaphors that this film will confront. And it's also giving us, as I said, a very almost documentary at times depiction of post-war Japanese society. So this is a police procedural, and we have a rookie homicide detective. This is Murakami, played by Toshira Mifune. He's on a bus. It's crowded to the max. Everybody's hot. When he gets off the bus, he realizes that his gun has been stolen, and this is a devastating blow to him, and in particular, even though he doesn't get fired, and he feels like he should get fired at one point, wants to resign, but it's basically a loss of honor. And what's going to happen to this gun? This is also the story of a gun as it passes from hand to hand. So he's allowed to go on a search. So he goes out into what at that time was vital to the economic well-being of the country, and that is black markets. And there were streets and streets of black market stalls, vendors, paying tribute to the Yakuza who were overlooking the stolen goods, clothing. All the clothing factories had been closed down during the war to make armaments, so clothing was in short supply. Prostitution, drugs, and this is filmed. It's a long sequence of watching Murakami walking through these black market towns. He's in disguise. He's not a policeman. He's looking for leads, and this section of the film was not directed by Kurosawa. This was by his assistant, Honda. And Honda was assistant director, a longtime friend of Kurosawa, hadn't become a director himself, but he would become very famous when he does become a director because he directed Godzilla. So we get, and as the crimes that this gun is involved in accumulate, he becomes part of, Murakami becomes a partner to Sato, played by Shigura, and this is the mentor, protege kind of relationship that the two of them would have. They had already appeared together in Kurosawa's previous movie, Drunken Angel. So, Murakami, as played by Mifune, is very impulsive. He's very tense. He'll jump at a moment's, if he just hears a clue or a hint of a clue, he right away jumps up. And it seemed to be a bit much in the performance, but we learned in the supplements, this is what Kurosawa wanted. He loved this tendency to overact in Mifune's acting arsenal. Of course, he lets him go full blown in The Seven Samurai, which was also with Shimura. So he's been through a lot. This whole generation of young men have been through the war. He has been repatriated. He is on the way home. His knapsack was stolen. He had directions to go in life. He chose to go a direction that had a profession that had some moral honor. The ultimate perpetrator, the one who is now committing crimes with this gun, is almost like a doppelganger of Murakami. He also was repatriated from the war, and but he went the wrong direction. He could not make the decision to look past the traumatic incidents of the war. So Sato, the Shimura character, he is trying in his mentoring process, because both he and the ultimate police commissioner have great hopes. They see potential in Murakami. So they go to visit the perpetrator's house. He's living in a shack in the backyard of his sister, and his sister is he was such a good kid. He was sensitive, and they go and look in this little makeshift shack that he had been living in, and read poetry by him. And so Murakami begins to have some sympathy for him. He's become sort of like the doppelganger, and it shakes him that this was a fellow soldier who probably went through the same experiences he did, and Sato, his mentor, is trying to tell him that these are people who have gone bad. You can't take any of this personally, because he's taking the gun situation very personally, especially when more and more crimes are being committed by this owner of the gun now. Yusa is his name. So in order to show him a different way of life and to get him out of this funk, Sato brings him to his family, to see his family, his wife, his 3 little kids. And there's a great shot where they're all watching the 3 little kids sleeping. And then they have a discussion about existentialism in Kurosawa's view of it, in that we have these moral choices to make when we reach a calamity, a misfortune. It can go one of 2 ways. And we have to look on these misfortunes as giving us the opportunity to take the right road rather than the wrong road. So Murakami has taken the wrong road. Yusa has not. And that there's other things in life that are important, and also to try to get Murakami to see you have to be a successful police officer. You have to have a certain amount of distance from the perpetrators that you're trying to catch. So along the way, they get some clues. They go to a baseball they go to a baseball stadium. This also trying to be emblematic of a more cohesive Japanese society versus the black market scenes. And this is another scene like the black market scene. This one, I think, goes on a little bit too long. They're trying to flush out somebody, a suspect or witness out of the audience, out of the crowd, a massive crowd, a full house. And baseball had become a huge sensation in the post-war era. The professional baseball started in the mid-1930s. It sort of went in decline during the war, but then it came back to prominence afterwards. And so we see these are the Tokyo Giants. They're like the New York Yankees of Japan. And we get a lot of close-ups of Japanese players that I guess were big stars in the 1940s. And certainly the audiences probably are watching the film, recognizing who these baseball players are. And then we have another great sequence in the film is when they go to a dance hall because the perpetrator, Yusa's girlfriend, they've discovered who she is, and they go to this dance hall. She's dancing in what my grandmother might call a hoochie coochie dance, and when they interrogate her, she's sullen, she's stubborn, she's loyal. She's loyal to Yusa. She doesn't want to give up any information that will help them find Yusa. And there's a long standoff between Murakami and Harumi, who is played by Keiko Awaji. And she was only 16 years old when she was cast here. This is her debut movie, and it was a sensational debut. She was a dancer in a dance academy. Kurosawa had spotted her. She didn't want to be in a movie. The leader of this academy kind of forced her to do it. And when she was on set, and she was difficult. When Kurosawa wanted her to cry, she would laugh. And Kurosawa would sort of go to her level of being like a teenager and talking to her as if he were a teenager and coaxing her in sort of her own lingo. But all these traits, these negative traits in the actress Keiko Awaji plays well into the character because that's exactly the character that she is playing. She went on to be a big star in Japan, 200 plus credits. I took a quick glance. I noticed she was in Black Rain, one of my favorite Masaki Kobayashi films. She was in an American film, English language film, The Bridges of Tokori with William Holden in 1954, when she would have been about 21. And then the heat that we see the characters experience all of a sudden becomes rain. So the heat is dissipated. Now we have mud. And mud plays a big part in this film as well, up until the finale. And it's the famous finale. It's shot, it plays out without music. We do hear children singing in the background. We do hear some Mozart on the piano from a nearby house. It's quite striking. It really plays into the doppelganger aspect of the film, and then it ends with a wail, a piercing wail of grief. It's sort of like the primal scream, and very, very moving. Reaction to the film was not in the United States was not great. Now, it did not open in the United States in 1964, so this would be about 14 years after it was made. The only contemporaneous review I could find was Bosley Crowther in the New York Times, and he panned it. Now, in 1949, when Stray Dog was made, Kurosawa was not a world-known director. That all blossomed in 1950 with Rashomon, and again with Mifune and Shimura were also in that one. And they won awards, played all around the world, played in New York City and many other places. Kurosawa was seen as a great new talent. Kurosawa himself was disappointed with the film. He was trying to do a psychological movie that's similar to the French novelist Georges Simenon. And Kurosawa actually wrote a novel of this film, and then he wrote in the Simenon style, and then he wrote his screenplay. But he thought he didn't catch the psychological element very well. And I would say that's probably true. This is an uneven film, but in many ways a very accomplished film. And if you know the future of Kurosawa's filmography, the great acclaim that he would receive, this is a really fascinating film, and it's always fascinating when Mifune and Shimura are teamed together, and they were teamed together a few more times for Kurosawa. And then there's a supplement here that I guess around 2000. It's really good. The art director on Stray Dog reminisces about it, and then we get a really good interview with Keiko Awaji, and she laughs about how naive she was about filmmaking and all the troubles she gave Kurosawa. Kurosawa never used her again, even though she had become a big star, and he was the one who discovered her. And she didn't like making films. By the end of the film, she did. She said the movie making isn't so bad after all. And the crew warmed up to her. So when her last scene was done, and she was driven before she was driven away, the crew came out to meet her and say goodbye to her one by one. And Toshira Mifune did a little dance for her. He pulls up his pants and does a little dance for her, which she always appreciated and remembered. There's also a commentary by Stephen Prince. I panned the commentary in the last film. I talked about Judo, which was subpar. Stephen Prince is what gives commentaries the way they should be. If you've seen High and Low and you listen to his commentary on High and Low, the later Kurosawa film, it's just as good here. He was a professor of film at Rutgers University, right down the street from me. Wrote a book about Kurosawa, which I read many years ago. I would love to have taken a course with Stephen Prince. So next up I will return to my Louis Buñuel year-long series with 1956 Nazarene, which you can find streaming on YouTube. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened. Comments are welcome. Take care.